Hello, and welcome back to your virtual tea time. My name is Tori, and today we have golf coach and host the Mental Golf Show, Josh Nichols. Hi, Josh.
Hello, Tori. How's it going?
Fantastic. Thanks for being on today.
Yeah, of course. And you can call my podcast whatever you want to call it. You're
the Mental Golf Show. And I have to say, I'm pretty mental when it comes to golf, Josh. So I feel like
it's a mental golf show, right?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I was introduced to you through the Chasing Scratch podcast. Here's the other thing too. I have a mutual friend. He was a past client of yours. And I talked to him the other day because he had actually listened to the Dr. Raymond Pryor show that I did with him about a year ago. And he's like, God, that was such a good show. I used to coach with Josh Nichols, and you know, that you guys have a tie together. And I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to Josh on Monday. This is perfect.
Wow.
And he's and Kevin goes, yeah, after I coached with him, I went and played a tournament and of course shot like his lowest rounds ever. So there's got to be something going on the Mental Golf Show that we all need to know.
It's magic, right? I've got all the answers. Just come on over. You'll learn everything. You won't ever make a mistake again, right?
But and then going back to me listening to Chasing Scratch that you were on earlier this spring, you told Mike, who Mike is one of the co-hosts of Chasing Scratch. And actually, I just posted an episode with him too on episode 132. Oh, nice. You told Mike, who was going to play in his first tournament, you said, it's basically not going to be pretty. It's not going to go as planned. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? This guy, he's telling us straight. It's a crazy first experience, that first tournament you play in.
Yeah. And as I said with him on that episode, I mean, it's been 20 years since my first experience. So I have no clue what I was feeling back then, but it didn't go well, right? Whatever I expected, it probably didn't live up to that expectation. So that's basically what I tell people all the time now is prepare yourself to handle things not going well. Instead of it'll all go great, everything's fine, positivity, it's all awesome. While that sounds nice and might feel nice in the moment, it's not very real and it's not very, it's fragile. That's what I've kind of shifted my thinking towards. So that it was kind of a natural thing to tell Mike that. And I don't want to give any spoilers away, but I think that's kind of how it played out.
It did. And I gotta say it's so helpful because again, you can go into that first experience and you're, hitting them well on the range, or say you've just been playing your best golf, right before it, and you're just feeling confident and you're feeling good. And all of a sudden it kicks you in the face. And if you kind of know, like, this is not going to go as expected, it won't hurt as much, because sometimes I think we can have these first tournament experiences that don't go well, and it takes us away from it almost forever, or, at least at that level. And we're talking at the level that makes you feel uncomfortable, whatever that is. It could be club level, league level, or state or national level. You know what I mean? So we're going to go through Josh Nichols. He was the runner-up to the 2017 US Mid-Am, which is a big effing deal. So I want to talk to you all about that. And we're going to kind of reverse, like, what do you wish you would have known at that time? But before that, let's talk about your relationship with golf now, because you've almost stepped away from your competitive career. So what's going on now? Like, what's your relationship with it now?
Yeah, my relationship is a lot more sparse than it used to be. It used to be day in, day out, 16 hours a day. Oof. I'm at the course, I'm working out. It was my whole life. It was everything. I was a golfer, right? There was no separation there. There's some foreshadowing there of what maybe I wish I would have known then, what I know now. But my relationship now is all dependent on my relationship with my wife and my 18-month-old son, who takes a lot of time away. But something I've recently been wrestling with is he and my wife and my business and clients and whatever are not competing hobbies or competing interests. They're all interests that I have, right? They're all valuable, right? So he's not taking away from golf. He's just another thing that I get to love in addition to golf. So loving him just takes more time than loving golf right now. So I am signed up for one event this year, which is the US Mid-Am qualifier, which is in August. I'm going to sign up for our North Carolina Mid-Am qualifier. That one is maybe also in August. So the only reason I can't sign up for more is time.
Yeah.
And, it's not for lack of desire. It's not for lack of skill. I would even say it's just looking at August on the calendar. I just won't be able to. Right. So that's my relationship with golf right now. It's just sparse. And I'm working on, I've spent 7 years trying to be more okay with that.
Yeah. And how do you adjust your expectations or go into it and still enjoy yourself when you're not giving it 16 hours a day anymore?
Right. That is a challenge. Knowing that I was that player, I did have that skill level, and now I just simply don't. That's what I've been trying to spend 7 years trying to figure out and get used to and accept. Because now when I go to the golf course, I still know in me somewhere, my brain somewhere has the files that say you could finish runner up in the US Mid-Am, right? Or you could basically win the US Mid-Am.
Absolutely.
You're good enough to do that, right? It's in there. I know it's in there, but my body can't do it because there's way more recent information in my brain. There's way more new habits in my brain that have become now set in habits, right? So you spend 7 years not going at it as hard, you develop different habits, right? I have to show up and say, I'm going to play my game as it is. Because if I'm always showing up, wishing it was different, wishing I was playing the old Josh way, I'm going to be miserable, right? Because I'm going to show up expecting one thing, not getting it. Okay, that sucks. Okay, the next day I'm going to show up expecting this, not get it still. Over time, I'll just get burnt out because I'm going to show up trying that over and over and over again and never get what I want or expect. You're going to get burnt out. So I have to say, this is my game as it is, which allows me to work on it more clearly and enjoy it when I finally get to go do it.
Yeah. So what is a win for you when you go into these two qualifiers in August? What do you consider a win?
I hadn't even thought about that, Tori. That's actually a really good question. I mean, signing up for a qualifier, my win is to qualify, right? So there is a result. There absolutely is a result component to it. Just because I'm a mental coach and I would talk about process and all these things does not mean I don't care about results and I don't help players care about results. So it's holding that result in mind. I want to qualify. I desperately want to qualify, but then setting that aside and saying, okay, I need to work really hard at my game to get that good. And then showing up on the day is saying, I have done my work. Now let's just let it go. Let's test what I've worked on up to this point. And I think a way for me to frame what a win would be is that night when I come back home from the qualifier, how would I want to say it went to my wife or my son who doesn't give a rat's butt about.
He doesn't care. Or your dog, if you have a dog. I see a dog in the background. Like he doesn't care. He just wants you home.
Right. Dog and cat don't care. I want to be able to say I played freely. I let things happen instead of forced things happen. I accepted everything, meaning I was able to experience good and bad as they are, not wishing they were different. So that would be a win and qualify. And the thing is, those things would translate much more likely to qualify. Right. That makes sense. That's why results are still okay. Right. They're still important. I care about results, but what's the best way to get results? To try really hard and force myself to qualify and make myself make birdies? No, it's to let good golf happen and accept things as they come and be present. That's how to qualify. Right. That's how to get the result that you want.
Yeah. So before we get into the meat of our show today, I just want to touch on your custom weekly practice plan, because I don't want to forget about that. And I kind of went into it this morning. I was like, you know what, I'm going to just go sign up for it and download it. And, there is a cost to it, but
I'll send it to you for free. Don't worry about that.
Well, but here's the thing. I went thinking it would be like a fast like transaction. And it's not. It's actually very well thought out of, and you fill out sheets, and it comes back to truly a custom plan for you. So can you get into who this is for and what it's all about? Because I find it really interesting. I'm all about practice plans, because if I don't go out there with a plan, I am a total mess. So tell us about it.
That's born out of one, my own kind of detail oriented nature of when I was 18. I would plan every minute of my day, and especially plan every minute of my golf course time, and get to the course at 8, go put on sunscreen at 8:15, right? Go to the range, 8:30.
You're speaking my language. I love it. Yeah.
So that doesn't totally work for everyone, but the underlying reason there is, if I didn't have that, like you said, I would be a mess. I would show up there and kind of skip the sunscreen part, like as silly as that is, right? I might just go right to the range because I can't wait to warm up so I can hit drivers or something. That relationship with practice, I noticed, really required me to kind of pin myself in. And I noticed that with other players. And I think players that say, I don't like a detailed practice, I like to kind of go with the flow, I think those players are kidding themselves a little bit, because they don't want to be uncomfortable. They don't want to practice something they're not good at. They don't want to stop hitting irons after 15 minutes and move to something else because I'm not hitting it good, right? I need to work on it longer. So combined with my own realization and my old swing coach, well, he's still my swing coach, Robert Linville. He and I worked on developing like a kind of a percentage system for this much time should be this much time should be putting, this much time should be this. So I kind of take that with your stats, with your time availability, and I sit down. It takes me about 30 minutes to kind of build. Sometimes it takes me 45 to an hour. If I've got 25 hours a week to practice. Well, I got to plug that into every single minute of 25 hours. That's a lot. So
absolutely.
The real purpose there is when you know later today or in an hour, I've got time to putt, then right now you can be present with approach shots or something. Or I know in 15 minutes, I'm going to get to hit drivers. So I'm going to be present right here for these 15 minutes hitting irons, because I know that timer's going to go off and I got to move to driver at that point. So I really need to soak up this 15 minutes. That's really the value, I think, there.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I love using a timer when I'm practicing and really compartmentalizing, I can't say that word very well, but into sections. So exactly what you said. So you can just stay present. Like, okay, I'm here.
Yes.
I'm here doing this putting drill for 10 minutes and let's just dive in and we're going to get to the rest later.
Yes.
So I do love that. And so then tell me one other thing. So let's say someone has an event this summer. Again, it could be a qualifier, could just be club championship that they are really looking to train for, or just the season in general, because we're going into the summer season. Being one of your clients, having you be their golf coach, what does that look like? Or who's that for? How do you even go about looking into having a golf mental coach?
Yeah. Every time someone finds me, I'm surprised that they either found me or want to do it, let alone pay me to do it. So I guess to start from how someone would find me would be, most people find me via the podcast, or a lot of people have found me via Chasing Scratch. Me being on there, probably the way a lot of people have found Jason Nichols, who is Mike's swing coach, who Mike raves about all the time. And Eli's coach, I'm sure, has gotten people from that. So a lot of people have come to me from that. But then at that point, they'll send me an email saying, this is the thing I'm struggling with, blah, 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 blah. And I'll say, okay, yeah, that's something I work on with clients all the time. So here's my plans, right? Here's this and that. And should they choose to sign up, we get into, it's kind of like this, honestly. Yeah. I mean, this is exactly where I sit. This is my same setup for Zoom calls with players. We just work through, I just always struggle with this. Or I also do a mental game assessment that they fill out, and a goals form they fill out, and we'll work through stuff like that. And it's just, usually they come with kind of one thing, right? Every time I'm under pressure, I hit a shank. That's a simple example, but okay, well, what's going on there, right? What's the underlying situation there? Well, just try to hit it off the toe. That's okay advice, maybe from a technical perspective, but there's a mental thing going on there. There's a fear,
Absolutely.
right? There's a worry, there's an anxiety component. So we drill down deeper, and that 1 hour probably doesn't cover everything. So we got to keep going hour after hour. So I hope players see the benefit. You mentioned Kevin, he's seen some benefits. So yeah, I think I know I would have liked to have someone like me when I was playing more higher competitive events. I had my swing coach who we would talk about things, and he would provide an opportunity for me to communicate with him. I would message him stuff all the time, journaling and whatnot, but I never had anyone to directly talk to about this kind of stuff. And I know it would have been valuable for me. So I kind of combine that experience, my competitive experience too, and learning about psychology, not even golf specific, just psychology in general, and help players try to turn that around and help players play better golf. So that's really all it is. Yeah.
No, it's great. And again, my listener is competitive, and they have a passion for the sport. They're an avid golfer, and sometimes they want to win, like all of us, and the winning in the literal term. So I just love showing them different ways to get better, other than just taking a swing technique lesson, which is absolute torture. Like, there's other ways to learn how to play better golf than just getting a lesson from, your club pro for 30 minutes.
Yeah. So
there's so much
you asked
different ways.
Right. And you asked how someone would gear up as a competitive player, how you would gear up for a club event or a club championship or a state qualifier. The best part about the whole process is starting not the week before, right? In the same way with your swing, right? There's a temptation to go get a lesson the week before to like kind of cram, right? Like you're cramming for an exam. But the best way would be back in February or May, right? The qualifiers 3 months from now or whatever. Back then, digging through some deeper things and starting to work on untangling some unhelpful habits and starting to try to introduce new, better habits. So by the time you've gotten to the thing, you're able to say, okay, I'm more aware of my tendencies. I'm more equipped of what to do in the moment when I notice my tendency. There's out of bounds up the left. I feel this fear rise in me. Instead of just acting knee-jerk, reacting to that fear and making a really guidey swing, I'm able to see the fear. I'm able to see the thing that I'm scared of and process through it and say, yeah, it's there. It doesn't terrify me, right? I could go there and it's okay. So here's where I want to go, right? So to be able to say that credibly and clearly and at a belief level, you can't just think about it the week before and show up hoping, right? Yeah. So it's got to be a deeper belief by the time you get to that thing.
Yeah. And thinking about, okay, from now until mid-August, you have all these casual rounds that you can still keep casual, but you can work on these things during them. So that you can work on it gradually for these next 3 months. And trust me, those casual rounds can still be casual. They can still be fun, but you can just be more mindful of what's going on.
Great word. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into the 2017 Mid-Am. First of all, you've been to 5 Mid-Ams. You've been to 1 USAM. So you've had your experience, but I love listening to the stories of those times where you got really far and you got all the way to the finals. So walk me through that whole week. Cause again, it's like a 10-day endeavor. I mean, it is a lot of golf. It is a marathon. So tell me about that week. Just by looking you up, I mean, you had a really good year in 2017. So you were dialed, it appeared.
Yes.
So tell me about going into that Mid-Am and what happened.
I had a lot of good results. And of course I would say this, but the reason why I was starting to play well is because I was starting to combine an acceptance of results. I could finish however I want in this event, or this event could go however it's going to go, and I will be okay. And I truly was able to start saying that probably in July of 2017. And the qualifier was in August, and then the actual event was in late September or something. I can't really remember. But in other words, just like I was just saying about the process of mental coaching, I had come to this deeper belief long before the actual event, so that by the time the event got here, I am cool with whatever happens. Truly, this is an awesome experience. So yeah, long story short, it was exhausting. It was 2 practice rounds, 2 stroke play rounds, round of 64, round of 32, round of 16, round of 8, nice. Final 4, final was 36 holes. I didn't make it all 36 holes, but all of my matches were down. I had one match finish on 17. I won on 17, but the others were either 18 or 19 holes.
Oh my God.
I went into a sudden death hole. So yeah, I played basically the maximum amount of golf you could play that week.
Which again, it's all walking. It's all walking. You're not getting any carts by any means.
Right.
Tell me about the stroke play rounds. Like, how'd you go into the tournament? How'd you play those 2 rounds? Because even though really seeding doesn't mean much, it's still, it's like, kind of, you get a vibe of what your golf game's going to look like this upcoming week. So what happened?
If I can remember, I'm fuzzy on the exact details, but I absolutely remember, I think it was the second day where was the kind of co-host golf course. It wasn't the main USGA actual match play course. It was the co-host. I was probably 3 or 4 shots out of it with like 9 holes to play or something. And we were also put on the clock for going slow. It was probably my fault. I don't know. But I remember having to run like to catch up to like get back on the clock because the USGA is very strict. But I also remember on every shot from that point, especially in that moment where I was running, I did a lot of breathing. I did a lot of, okay, forget about needing to play fast in this moment, right? It's my turn to hit. I don't have to worry about playing fast. So let's be present for this shot. I get 40 seconds. I can take every second I want, right? They can't penalize me if I am within the rules. So take your time, hit the shot to the best of your ability. And I really, really leaned hard into being present at that point, because I'm like, at that point, it was my second US Mid-Am. I'd never made it into match play. It would be a huge achievement to make it into match play.
Sorry, you said you were 3 or 4 shots short of making the cut at this point in your last 9 holes?
I think so. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And whoever's listening can fact check me. I don't remember the details, but I do remember I wasn't just cruising. I remember it was, I wasn't in by a lot down the stretch. I had to work my way into it. So I really had to lean hard into just be present, right? The result will be what it will be. Let's just be present. I'm just trying not to get, penalized for slow play, right? I'm just one shot at a time at this point. And I really, really did that well, which was because of my training up to that point, right? I didn't just like magically muster that. I had worked on that up to this point. So I don't know what seed I finished or what seed I was in. I think I was maybe in the 50s. I made it without needing to be in a playoff. So I think I beat the cut by 1 or something. So it was a close one, but yeah, it was amazing. That was an awesome accomplishment just at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. So that night you're thinking, oh my God, that's because again, this was your first time making the cut into match play. Yeah. So what was your mindset going into match play then? Were you a good match play player? Would you consider yourself, or because I had a span there where I really struggled with match play because it's just a different animal. So
it is.
How are you going into it?
I went into it reminding myself that it truly, really wasn't that different of an animal. And the reason I say that is because in order to win this hole, I need to play this hole better than that guy. And in order to play this hole better than that guy, I need to hit this tee shot well. In order to hit this tee shot well, I have to be present. I've got to be accepting. I got to let it rip, see where it goes. Right. So all of the same factors that helped me hit a good shot in stroke play helped me do it in match play. I hadn't played that much match play up to that point, probably just in little things with my friends. I know I had played in a state match play event, maybe that year or the year before, and didn't do well. But at that point in the US Mid-Am, I had realized that I play best when I'm accepting of results, right? if I win this match, awesome. If I win this hole, awesome. It will be a result of my practice and preparation. If I do well, it's simply a test of my preparation. So I truly lived that out hole by hole by hole by hole, to the point where I honestly don't remember many details about the actual thing, because it was not that it was like I was in the zone or something the whole time. It was just, I was just very present on each shot. Once that shot was over, or that hole was over, or that match was over, it was gone. Right? It did not matter. Future didn't matter. Past didn't matter. So going into match play, it was just, I know what I need to do. I've been working really hard for this, mentally and physically. So let's just send it and see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, making match play was a personal goal of yours. So then I read that you made a 6-foot putt to get into the finals. Do you remember that putt?
I do. Yeah, I do remember that. I was shaking, right? I was extremely nervous because I knew what it meant. I think we were on 18. We might have had to replay 18. I can't really remember, but I knew this putt was to get to the final. And I don't remember the actual ball going in, but I do remember the feelings. And when I made it, my mom came running over to me and we hugged. She was the only one watching me, right? She had been staying in a hotel watching me. Yeah, it was such a great feeling, because for some reason, that was kind of it for me. And what I mean by that is, I've made it to the final. I'm cool now, almost. And I don't know why I had that thought. I really don't, because you win the final, you play in the Masters, you play in the US Open. And yes, I was thinking about that in the hotel the night before, FaceTiming my girlfriend, now wife, then girlfriend. And, I didn't sleep great, but still, I had a peace about it to say, man, I have made it this far and this is amazing, right? Kind of everything is kind of gravy from this point.
Yeah. And what do you think about that you had that feeling? Do you think that was a detriment, almost like, okay, we did it, and that almost closed the book on your competitiveness?
Yes, because I actually still have my notebook where I was taking stats from that round, or from that tournament. I had every match, round of 64, round of 32 kind of written down in my notebook. And I had done that for the year leading up to that. But in the middle, after the first 9 of the semifinal match, the final 4, I stopped taking stats. I said, you know what? I just want to enjoy this, right? I just want to, in my mind at the time, it was, I just want to be present. I just want to kind of just play golf and really enjoy this, because I might not ever get here again. So I stopped, and turns out I think a huge mistake. Yeah. That's kind of one of my regrets from those 2 days was I had this process that I had ingrained for months. And in the biggest moment, I said, I don't need to do this. Right. And that was probably the emotions taking over and me saying, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't need to do that. Right. I can let that go. I don't need to do that. And that was a detriment. Absolutely. Because that was one of my ways of being present. Was write this stat down, close the book. That shot is over. So now I didn't have that part of my process. So along with that, the mentality of, whatever happens at this point doesn't really matter. And cherry on top of all that was, there was a guy, I think a USGA media guy, walking with us on the 3rd or 4th hole of the final, right? We're 3 or 4 holes into the final. We're all square or something. And that media guy said, so what do you think that you're getting to go play Pebble Beach next year? And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, oh, the both finalists make it into the US Amateur next year, and it's at Pebble Beach. And at that point, I was really honestly, I'm cool, right? I can walk off right now and I'm fine. And that was absolutely a detriment, because then I kept fighting, right? I didn't give up, but it was I just lacked that drive, along with being physically extremely fatigued from 10 days of golf. When something would go bad, it maybe defeated me a little bit more, right? I don't need to really try, right? So I did have that vibe. So all of that kind of combined into, maybe I didn't quite give it my all in that final.
Yeah. You just took me back to, actually, I'm thinking about, I've been to the US Mid-Am women's mid-am once. And
nice.
I probably had a very similar experience there where I made match play. And I think that I definitely had the thoughts in my head, like, okay, you did it. Like you did it. Like everything is a gift from here on out.
Right.
And, I had a good first match, but I did lose. But the one tournament I'm thinking about in particular was our state mid-am 2 years ago. I was tied going into the final hole, and I'm playing with the player that I'm tied with. And it was like it was yesterday. I remember standing on the tee box and telling myself, like, you did it. You're tied going into the last hole. Whatever happens from here on out, you're fine. Like you played so well. You fought so well. I had that push in me. I had that drive in me that entire tournament. And it was almost like I gave myself permission to let go. Like whatever happens. And it was that drive that got me there. And you're right. Like you just said, like I let go of the drive. And what I do, I just let go of it. So that was a very important lesson that I learned too.
Yeah.
It was nice that you just reminded me of that.
Right. And the difficult contradictory thing of that was I went into the whole tournament saying this can go however it's going to go and I'm cool. But what that did was free me up to be really present, do my process, the same process I had done up to that point for months up to that point, ingrained into me. I think what changed was my level of care, maybe. You know, up to that point, I really, really cared, but I was accepting. By the end, I was really, really accepting still, but maybe I cared a little less, right? Yeah. I didn't need it, or which needing it could be bad too. So there's like a strange nuance here of the difference between acceptance and care. So the sweet spot for me, and maybe it sounds like for you too, is I can accept results, but I'm still in it, present, competing, trying, caring, and doing my process as if this is the one shot, right? And we maybe both let that go to say, I'm not going to try as hard, or it just doesn't matter to me as much. That's what it felt like for me. And maybe that's what it was for you too. And
again, this is why tournament experience is so important to the growth of your game, because you're able to learn these lessons. And if you reflect on them, if you actually take the time to reflect on them, they will make a difference in the future. But
totally.
Okay. I'm loving this conversation, but let's get into, and we probably already covered maybe one of them. I'm not sure, but you thought of 5 things that you wish you knew then that you know now, because again, we're talking 7 years of golf coaching that you've done in between that 2017 Mid-Am final and now. So let's hear them. What's the first thing that you wish you knew 7 years ago?
I wish I had known that the runner-up gets into the USAM. So I wasn't so caught off guard by that on the 3rd hole. I wish I had known to tell that guy to bug off, because I don't want to hear it right now.
Yeah. So that was kind of rude.
Yeah, right. What are you doing talking to us during the final of the USGA event?
Exactly.
But one of the regrets I have after that US Mid-Am, I kind of hung it up a little bit. And really because of the US Mid-Am, I hung it up. I guess there's some context here. In July, I met my then girlfriend, now wife, and she brought into my life kind of a balance, right? I mentioned earlier, I was all golf all the time. That's all that mattered. Blinders on, nothing else matters. Golf is everything to me. If golf was great, I was great. If golf was bad, I was bad. She brought in the balance to say, there's more to life than golf, right? When you're away from the golf course, you can turn that off and be on for this other thing, right? Be present for this other thing. And that healthy balance was why I started playing well and winning tournaments and getting into the US Mid-Am. I fully believe that. And I preach that to players now, is that the balance helps. And as of that US Mid-Am, in the middle of it, I said, I don't really want to do this all the time. And what I mean by do this is I wanted to turn pro. I wanted to play on the mini tours and eventually PGA Tour. And I realized I don't want to be in hotels in South Carolina and trying to make a cut in a mini tour event that doesn't really mean much, and then try to Monday qualify for this and pre-qualify for this. I kind of realized in the middle of that, at the height of my golfing accomplishments, I don't really want this. So all that to say, I kind of hung it up at that point. But what came with that runner-up finish was a bunch of invitations to some big national events at really good golf courses, Gasparilla. There's one at Seminole. There's like all over the country. And I could have applied to play at one at Pine Valley or something, Crump Cup or something, and declined every invitation. And I honestly have regrets of doing that. And there was a cost reason. I didn't have a job right out of all that. So I couldn't afford it. I didn't want to ask my girlfriend to pay for it. Yeah. So there was a cost reason, but really it was like I don't want to, right? Yeah. And looking back, I wish I had. Yeah.
Was there a part of you that just associated golf with just that grind of 16-hour days and all of that? And now you're realizing, actually, I could have played in these amateur events that are really good events and not needed 16-hour days.
Absolutely.
So is that kind of where the regret comes from? It's like you didn't know how to just go through that.
Exactly. I didn't know how to just play. And, you know, there's like maybe a kind of a standard of excellence or something that I had of, well, I'm not going to sign up to play in something that I'm not going to practice for. But looking back, that's so narrow-minded because I could have practiced a fraction of what I practiced back then and still be way more than I practice now. And I was already really, really good back then. So I could have played great in those events and probably better, maybe not being so much on the grind. So it was kind of a philosophical decision to say, I'm leaving golf behind. Right. And I felt so noble or something making this decision. Yeah. And looking back, it's like, you should have just played the tournaments at the awesome golf courses. Right. What are you doing? Yeah. So that's something I wish I had known back then.
Fast forward now, you're like trying to get on Pine Valley. Like, who do I know? Like,
exactly.
You already had the invitation. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. Right. So that's, that's a regret of mine. I'm still chasing, right? I want to play in the US Mid-Am again. I want to win the US Mid-Am so I can get all these invitations, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a regret.
Okay. So on to number 2. What was the other thing that you wish you knew back then?
So with that kind of dropping golf, at first it was maybe nice, but I kind of went into like an identity crisis of I just did this thing for, I guess I was 26 at the time since I was 12. So I just did this for 14 straight years of going hard at it with one pursuit of mind of turning pro. And now I'm walking away from that. Now, who the heck am I if I'm not doing that? I'm not going to the golf course every day. So at first it was relieving and nice and relaxing, but eventually it was like, I'm not doing anything with this skill, with this hobby, with this desire, like even in a healthy way going to do it. I wasn't letting myself because it would be taking away time from my girlfriend, which at the time she had brought balance into my life. Now I swung too hard the other way. Yeah. Right. And felt good at the time, right? It felt justified, right? Because she's more important than golf. So I need to spend all my time with her. And to no fault of hers, right? If I had said, hey, I want to go to the range today, she would have said, of course. But I felt I needed to maybe, I don't know, impress her or something. But I had this identity crisis of I'm nothing without golf. And if I had 4 years of therapy later, right, as where I sit now, man, I have worked hard to shed myself of that and still do, right? I just before us talking, I was in the backyard hitting golf balls into my bed sheet. So I'm still trying to be a good golfer, but with better intentions now. So going back, I would have sat Josh down and said, hey man, go play golf still. It's okay. Right. You can go play golf without being a golfer, right? Because it's healthy for you. Yeah.
Josh, what kind of golf makes you the most happy nowadays? Like, what kind of golf do you enjoy the most? Is it the tournament golf, or is it just casual around with your friends? Like, what do you really enjoy now today?
Yeah, I really, really like practicing. I don't know how much I love playing because I don't get to play that much. Playing takes a lot of time and you don't get a whole lot out of that time, right? With practice, it feels like you can cram more into 2 hours. Back to the practice plan thing.
Yeah.
But I really, really love competitive golf still. I absolutely still have that. That's a huge part of me still. Mm-hmm. I have a competitive nature, so it's an outlet for it. I can't go play basketball or something. I've played pickleball with family and friends, and that's cool. And I catch myself being really into it, but that doesn't do it for me, right? Competitive golf is still it. So I practice with the intention in mind to play competitive golf. That's still, I could never play another casual round in my life. I'd be okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, casual rounds. I went to a chasing scratch event earlier this year.
Yeah.
And I really desperately wanted it to be competitive, and it's casual, right? It's just a fun meetup thing. So relax, chill out.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I need this to be competitive.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's healthy or not.
I'd be the same way. I'd be the same way. I'd be like, well, what's the game? Well, what are we
playing for? Yeah. Right. What's this for? So
like it can't just be nothing.
Right. So I love competitive golf still, and I practice for competitive golf, and it's all part of a kind of a self-care thing. Yeah.
Okay. On to number 3. Something that you wish you knew 7 years ago.
It's along the same lines, but I don't have to play golf in order to be myself. So it's kind of a combination of the first kind of the regrets of not playing in these things, but also the identity crisis. Still to this day, I feel like I have to go play golf in order to be myself. I have to, right? It's kind of if it's a need. And if I go too long without it, I start feeling like I'm not myself. It's like a push and pull. When I start feeling like I need it, it becomes too important. And then when I'm doing it, I'm like shoving things to the side just to go play golf. Yeah. And that's an unhealthy relationship with it. So to hold golf a little bit looser, but also still give myself the freedom to go do it. Right. That's kind of maintaining that. I really wish I had known that back then. You can go play, but you don't have to hold it so tight. So you can see a lot of my stuff is like balance, time, right? Regrets of those kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is. What did I say to my sister the other day? I said, God, golf is high maintenance. It requires a lot of attention. And maybe that's just maybe that's not even true, but that's how I feel. Like, I feel like there's definitely an if-then statement with it. Like if you want to be a good golfer, then you need to spend time on your game.
Yes.
Like that is something that I believe in my core. And it sometimes makes me miserable. Sometimes because if you can't get to it or, because I compete, I'm in Phoenix, so I can compete pretty much year round. And, I want to play well. I want to show up. I want to be able to test my game and have it go in one direction most of the time. But so it could be a little,
it can get unhealthy, right? Yeah. It's healthy, right? It's a healthy outlet, but it can get unhealthy. I know for me, I have to stay in communication with my wife to say, planning ahead, hey, I need this time, right? This is valuable for me in the same way that you need your time to do your stuff. I need this time. So help me plan it to where we're both benefiting from this, because she benefits when I go play golf because I come back a better person, right? Yeah. I'm sure you're the same way.
Yeah. And does coaching give you that same outlet or does it have to be playing? I
like it, but it doesn't scratch the itch that playing does or practicing does. Coaching is awesome because I get to talk to people about golf in the same way we are. It's the job, right? It's like I do this to pay the bills, but I pay to play golf. So I know it's of a different value to me.
Yeah. Okay. Finish us up with one more thing you wish you knew. Going into that final in 2017, like something that you wish you knew.
Yeah. So this would be more of something I've learned real recently in like a nitty gritty psychology kind of thing, is kind of the reason why we play tense, or the reason why we get nervous, or the reason why we get anxious, or the reason why we fear or worry. And it's like the simple explanation of like the brain seeing a threatening environment and doing a threat response to that environment. So the reason why I say that, and that's so different from the other things that I've mentioned so far, but it was every reason why I was nervous in every event I would ever play, or anxious, right? Or worried about how it might go, or why I would play guidey towards the end of a really good round, or why I would play guidey at the, make a guidey swing on the first tee, all this kind of protectiveness. My brain was trying to protect me from what it thought was a threatening situation. And I just didn't know that. I thought, I just need to free up, right? I just need to relax. I need to just loosen up, or, yep, that's just how it is, right? There's nothing you can do about it. And now I know it's kind of a perception thing. It's a thing you can work through. It's a seeing what you're afraid of and being okay with the thing you're afraid of, right? In kind of the same way you're afraid of heights and you work on a high-rise building. Well, you should probably conquer this, right? So you have to face your fears, right? You gotta show your brain that what you think is scary is not scary. So you're less prone to be guidey or less protective. And that made a huge difference in that final, because I was still afraid to fail. Even through all of this, I care less. Everything's gravy. I still wanted to, right? I still wanted to win. Like, I'm still here trying. I didn't literally withdraw from it. Yeah. So I still want to win. I played guidey. I remember the first tee shot. I was super anxious, right? I don't want to, there's people watching, right? All this. My girlfriend just drove, 8 hours overnight to come watch me. So if I'd had a better relationship with fear and anxiety and worry and all these things, I could have played so much more free. And probably, I don't know if I could have won it, because I shot 69 in the first 18 and I was 6 down after 18.
So it's a half buzzsaw then.
Exactly. It was an absolute buzzsaw. He shot a 62 or something ridiculous. He was throwing darts, and then when he hit it far from the hole, he made the 35 footer. So no one could have beat him that day, but I maybe could have rattled him a little more if I had been more on or something, less steery, less guidey. So that's absolutely something I wish I had known back then.
So Josh, walk us through it then. So you're on the first tee, there's out of bounds on the right, and your mind is telling your brain, or, you're obviously fearful of hitting it out of bounds. And it is just a part of recognizing that and saying, okay, you're scared of hitting it out of bounds because you don't want to get embarrassed. You don't want to shoot this high number. And then is it taking it almost and talking yourself out of that? Like, okay, what if you do that? It's not a big deal. You're going to hit your next shot, and you're going to, there's 17 more holes left. Is that part of working it out, or how is it actually in the moment? Like, what does working it out actually mean?
I mean, you're nailing it. If you can say, okay, what's the worst case scenario here? It would be hitting it, or like, as I stand here, what's the thing I'm most afraid of on this tee shot? It's the out of bounds on the right. Let's work through that. Why is that so scary? And this is a lot of the conversations and sessions with players. Is, okay, why is that so scary to you? Well, it would hurt the score. It would be embarrassing. Like you said, I wouldn't stop there, because most people just stop there and say, yep, it would be embarrassing, so I should be scared. I would take it the next step and say, okay, why is that embarrassing? Why is it so bad for your score? Or why is score that important? Why is a double bogey that bad? Well, it would they would think I'm a bad player. Okay. Would they really? Right. Let's be real here. They don't care. Right. They're worried about the out of bounds on the right. Yeah. And okay, no round has ever been contingent on whether or not you make a double. Right. You can make a double here, and no round is contingent on that. Yeah. Yeah. So it's seeing the worst case scenario. It's seeing the thing you're afraid of, and making yourself less afraid of it by making it less fear worthy, by making it less scary. Your brain won't be scared of it, right? It won't do all the things that it does when it's scared. And that's the only way to do it. You can't talk yourself into, I don't care. Well, you do. So you got to drill down into why you care. And
what'd you say? Because I think a lot of people are scared of embarrassment. Just that word. Like, I don't want to embarrass myself, whether you're playing with players that you consider better than you, or you're an event that you've never played before. You don't want to embarrass yourself. And just that phrase you just said, but are you really are you really embarrassing? Like, are they really actually thinking about you? No. Right. Like, if we could just have that. Yeah. Right.
And if they are, who cares? Like, if they're thinking that much about you, then they got their own problems to work through. That's weird, right? Yeah. They should be worrying about their own game. Yeah. And if they think less of you now, that you want to be around them anyway, right? You don't want to surround yourself with people who think less of you if you hit a ball out of bounds, like they've never done it. So if you like actually expose it, then you realize this is not worth being scared of. The same way of like a little kid who's scared of under their bed, right? Yeah. The way to make it worse is to never think about it, pretend it's not there, never look. The way to make it, the fear to go away, is to cut on the lights and look under the bed and realize, oh, wait, there's nothing worth being afraid of here. And until then, you will live afraid. But once you expose it and you work your way through it, you process it, it becomes less scary. It's not perfect. It doesn't go away like that, but you can chip away at it over time. And that's the way to play a little bit more freely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, Josh, this hour just flew by. I'm sure we could talk to another about it for another half an hour, another hour even, but that's just testament to how much good info you have in your podcast, the Mental Golf Show, or the Golf Mental Show, however you want to read it yourself.
Come on. I bet if you search for either, it'll come up with the same thing.
It will pop up. So remind everyone where they can reach you. What's your favorite social media platform? Where are you hanging out nowadays?
Yeah. Well, I don't like any social media, but I choose to inflict Twitter upon myself the most. I'm at Josh Luke Nichols on there. I think I'm mental golf coach, if I've got those words in the right order. Mental golf coach is kind of my name, but at Josh Luke Nichols is my handle. And that's where I spend most of my time. And you could go to my website, joshnicholsgolf.com. My podcast, as you mentioned, is the Mental Golf Show. Those are kind of the places where I do most. Yeah.
All right. Perfect. And it's all in the show notes too. So you don't have to write anything down. Just click in there. And again, don't forget about that custom weekly practice plan that Josh has too. I think it's really cool. I will be doing it later today. Yeah, I just didn't want to rush it through. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I'm sure we will touch base again soon.
Thank you, Tori. This is awesome.
Thanks, Josh.